Well, of course, we've entered into the second hour of the South African morning here on eNCA DSTV channel 403. I'm Faith Mangop, of course, never flying solo. My colleague Morena Mutupi is also with us all the way until 9 a.m. If you've just joined us, welcome. We have to catch you up what's happening in and around your world. In fact, starting with the story. Now, illegal mining on Gauteng's West Rand has made headlines locally and abroad recently, with police and residents hunting for zamazamas after the gang rapes. Mining contributes significantly to economic growth and job creation, and also attracts foreign direct investment. So is the illegal mining industry hurting the country as an investment destination? To discuss this, we're joined now by Tshepo Matseba, who's a managing director at Reputation First Group, who's joining us in the studio. Tshepo, thank you so much for your time this morning. A very good morning to you. You know, we were speaking a little bit off air about just how we got to this point where even illegal mining and the rape of 8 women is a conversation in 2022 in South Africa. But we can't negate the fact that when the dawn of democracy happened and the 6,000 mines were left abandoned, we did not take action. We didn't take significant policy resolutions into how is it that we're going to salvage now gaping holes, literally, that must be filled.
Yeah, the difficulty about this conversation is that I'm a man and I'm having a conversation about a reality that happened to about 8 women or more. Because that's all we hear about. But the disaster is that, reputationally speaking, there are corporates that created an ecosystem. They benefited from an ecosystem over a long period of time, and they never cleaned up properly. Because if you clean up properly, you wouldn't have the gaps for illegal mining to happen. Secondly, you have a Department of Mineral Resources. Beyond that, you have a government, actually. You have a government of South Africa led by a team of cabinet ministers who do nothing about the reality that there is a mess in our country. And that mess has created an opportunity for illegal mining to happen, and to happen consistently. And so the pains that we are seeing in the West Rand are actually the pains of South Africa everywhere else, that we leave gaps and we don't fill up the holes.
Yeah, you know, as you're speaking about this, I can only imagine, because it's not only about what we are facing as a country that is significant, it's also about how the rest of the global community views us, right? We can say that we need to be very national focused, but you can't be national focused without paying to mind the fact that we are working within an ecosystem of a global community. And that in itself needs some kind of awareness to that. And are we aware enough about the actual impact that this is having on brand South Africa?
No, I don't think there's an awareness, especially in the political spectrum, because politicians only care about the next election most of the time. And that's the saddest part, that politicians only care about the next election. The reality, though, is that if I'm an investor and I'm sitting in China and I see that 8 women were raped in South Africa, I don't actually want to send my team to work in South Africa. I actually don't necessarily want to send my entity to invest in South Africa. I might withdraw. Because remember, in China, if you use China only as an example, for example, when the situation happened in the Eastern Cape, where those kids died, 21, 22, and it turned to 23, 24, that situation led to some people in China writing heavy headlines. And the reason why is because China as a market, one death is one too many in that market. But here we are almost mute to death. We see it every day. You and I could drive out of here and somebody could get shot. And that's how we've become accustomed to crime and death and criminality. And so, in a sense, this is harming South Africa's possibility, not just potential, possibility of significant investment. And of course, what a pain for the foreign direct investment agenda. So if I was the Minister of Finance, really, this is like or Treasury, this is a disaster for us.
You know, it's like crisis management time. And as you're speaking about how most of the time government officials or politicians only pay mind to the next elections and not necessarily to the external factors that could actually hamper the next elections. So the very same politicians, right? So they are deployees of the African National Congress that are sitting in government that are overseeing some of these portfolios. As you're taking a look at it, surely that has got a direct impact on your political career? Because if the country is not doing well, if the image of brand South Africa is in crisis mode, if foreign direct investment is under threat, then surely you take a look at yourself and you go, hold on a second, if I want to still retain power, let's say come 2024, I need to be able to clean up, because otherwise whatever it is that I'm getting into is going to be a mess anyways. Or am I being way too optimistic about how politics work in the South African discourse?
In South Africa, politics, there's politics of patronage, which means that you know the results in advance, especially national results. So we don't know what's going to happen in 2024, but we know that historically, the African National Congress, ANC, gets like significant amount of votes. And I don't want to say, but they actually get the majority inevitably. And that's because of the history of our country. That our mothers, our grandmothers...
who vote, by the way.
Yes.
They're the ones that go vote.
Of course. And some of us, I mean, I'm not as young anymore, so we all have the responsibility to decide how the country goes. But unfortunately, the reality of the country is that we decide to vote for the ANC consistently. And we can't, therefore, blame the ANC for its decisions when we don't participate in a holistic pattern. The reality of South Africa, though, is that we vote on patronage. The ANC is most likely to rule the country after 2024. Whether you and I get emotional about it is a different matter. But the facts, the numbers only speak. And South Africans usually vote for the ANC. It doesn't matter which South Africans we're talking about. But the reality is that there is an ANC. And unfortunately, some of the people in the ANC don't think in the sense of protecting the economy of the country or the image of the country, both locally and internationally.
You start getting a little bit concerned about the impact that South Africa's declining reputation, and I want to say there are pockets of excellence, because it's not just all doom and gloom in this country. There are pockets of excellence in this country. There are sectors of industry that are really trying to do the best that they can. Tourism industry suffered significantly during the COVID-19 pandemic. They're trying to pick up. Manufacturing is not doing as well as it should, but the agriculture and the like, they're trying to do something so that they can have brand South Africa, if we go back to the reputation, represented in the best way that it can. If we continue along this trajectory of a declining reputation, especially when it comes to this particular sector of industry, and never mind the fact that rape is also linked to this sector of industry now, what is the result?
Yeah, look, the reality of what we are facing is that South Africa may not necessarily recover from this catastrophe, because we have, on one hand, you have pala that happens consistently, and then you have the crime situation, and then you have unemployment, and you have the dire economic disaster that we see, you and I, every single day. But domestically, it looks very bad where we are. But if you look around the world, actually South Africa is protected by South Africans. South Africans around the world feel the energy and positivity about the country. And when you look at investors, actually investors are not leaving South Africa. There are many investors that are coming into South Africa. Yesterday I had a meeting for about 2 hours, and we had a conversation with Bike. It's a Chinese manufacturing company. And all they were talking about is how much more investment they want to bring into South Africa. Yeah. And so there's optimism. The difficulty is that as South Africans, we judge ourselves harshly. But South Africa compares to equitable markets, not equal, equitable markets around the world. South Africa is doing really, really well. I must say, to be honest with you, that we are harsh on ourselves. And we know, domestically, we must be harsh, because people are dying, women are raped. It is uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. As I said, you drive out of here and you don't know what would happen, because we don't have the space for this for ourselves to be protected. But South Africa is actually a decent, very decent investment destination if you look at it holistically. But domestically, we have serious problems, and we need to deal with those problems openly and quickly, because we don't have time. If we don't, we're going to have to see another July 2021.
Oh, goodness me. And it's so funny how people keep reverberating the very same sentiment around, if we don't act now, there's so much that is at stake that people will revolt if nothing gets done eventually. Tshepo, I have to leave my conversation here, but thank you very much for your time this morning. There's Tshepo Matseba, who is a Reputation First Group Managing Director, just speaking to us about how do we protect the brand of South Africa.